一个。
You know guys, the reason I had to make today's video is actually very simple. You see, ever since MW 2019 Part 2, where Steam came into the picture and we actually had real raw numbers and data to look at, it's been really interesting to see just how the trend has developed, and by developed, I mean decreased over time with every single title and every single update over time. And you know, I find it to be extremely interesting that for the last year and a half or so, the Gooch Slickers have been in complete defense mode of Activision, okay? Like, these guys literally have their faces buried in Activision's ass crack, gobbling Gooch anytime anybody has anything negative to say about Call of Duty or the player count dropping, and you know, they always come up with the exact same cope. Oh, you're just rage baiting because the Steam numbers don't count. That's been the ace up their sleeves this entire time, is that Steam numbers do not count. Well guys, who would have thought? Gooch Lickers really do be Gooch licking, because now the narrative has shifted, and now the Steam player base actually does count. You know why it counts? Because the player count has actually gone up because of Verdansk coming back. Oh, who would have ever guessed? Oh my gosh.
Jesus, Bobby, stop with you.
And you want to know the craziest part about this? The numbers that they're all hyping up and celebrating, it's not even that good. But before I dive into this topic, I'm gonna need you to do me a favor. Please leave a like on today's video. Let's get this video out in the algorithm, because there's gonna be a lot of people in defense mode, and this video, it's gonna piss them off. Also, subscribe if you're new. Hashtag Fooly50 down in the comments below. We're on our way to 50,000 subscribers. We've been making great progress, so be a part of the cause. But guys, let's revisit this tweet from Scatmaster Charles. He says, Call of Duty has now reached its highest player count on Steam in 2025, passing 112,000 players on launch day of Verdansk.
It's us the right to say what we want.
Shut
when
the
you think about
fuck
it.
up!
And when this tweet first dropped on Thursday, all you saw was people hyping this up, celebrating, saying Call of Duty's back, we're so back. Because now they're looking at the Steam player count, and since it looks impressive to them, now it's actually a player base that counts in their eyes when it comes to measuring data and looking at analytics and numbers, statistics, and fucking trends. And I made the point that 112,000 peak players on Steam for the return of Verdansk, one of the most anticipated moments in Call of Duty history in like the last 2-3 years. Only having about a fourth of the player count that Warzone 2 had, okay, back in MW 2019 Part 2. Looking at this player count of 112,000 for the return of Verdansk is really not that impressive, especially considering the fact that this still includes several different titles, including Black Ops 6 and Season 3, and the new Zombies that's out in Black Ops 6 as well. That entire accumulation plus Verdansk equals up to about 112,000 on Steam. Now, as of today, as I'm recording on Friday, the player base is about 99,000, probably gonna peak around 101,000 for the day, which I guess is still good, but that's already showing that thousands and thousands of people are already dropping off instead of people actually playing it even more. And what's really crazy about this is the fact that not very many people truly understand how stats and analytics and trends work. They don't really know how slopes work. Again, I highly recommend you just take a stats class, whether you're in high school or in college. If you're past college, by the way, and you're like 25 or up, and you still try to make the argument that the player drops in Steam don't really count because it's the smallest player base, which already is a baseless claim that has no evidence to it, I'm gonna need you to enroll in a college class, and yes, I actually do think you should pay for that rather than the fucking battle pass in Black Cell, and actually educate yourself on how trends work, because even if it were true that the Steam player base is the smallest percentage of players in Call of Duty, a large percentage of a drop-off on Steam is still going to equate to a very large percentage drop-off on whatever other platform you want to look at, okay? That's just how trends work in data. That's one of the easiest ways to make predictions in statistics and in data collection. That's just a fact, okay? If you want to disprove that, again, be my guest. It's a method of data collecting that has been used by mankind for decades, so good luck with that. So when people come out here and start calling out people like myself, or this person in particular, calls out plain truth and says, haha, this fucking hurts you, doesn't it? Haha, dumbass. And shows that there's 301,000 people watching Warzone Verdansk on Twitch. I personally find it extremely hilarious because now on day 2, by the time I'm recording this video, that number has dropped down to 89,000. Good job, man. Wow, you really took it to him.
Sweetie, what is your condition?
How should I know? I'm retarded.
Guys, please remember, every single gooch slicker and fanboy under the sun was telling everybody, just wait till Verdansk drops, wait till the new Warzone Season 3 update, Call of Duty's gonna be saved, you're just rage baiting if you disagree. I've made the prediction already that this boost in the player count, it's going to last a couple of weeks. As it turns out, it's already dropping just a day after, which not a good sign, but I understand what the cope is, okay? Look, a psychology major out here, you know what I'm saying? I can kind of predict where the mentality is at. Oh, but the game launched on the Thursday, people were at work, so just wait until the weekend. The weekend is gonna come back up. Okay, how about this? The Scadmaster is gonna toss you a bone. I will give you until Sunday night. When Sunday night comes up, if the player count has not actually increased past the peak of 112,000, then Monday's video will not be a complete annihilation of every single gooch slicker, COD fanboy, and Call of Duty shill content creator that has ever existed, okay? Because as it stands, again, just looking at common sense, basic statistics, that number is probably going to drop even more, little by little, okay? Not completely dead to where it used to be, but it's gonna continue decreasing. And now to every single gooch slicker out there that wants to give me the cope that, oh, the Steam player count is the lowest of all platforms, I completely and utterly welcome you to provide that evidence from wherever you want to pull that out from. And actually, I got a better challenge for you. Not only do you need to prove that statement correct, but you actually need to disprove Activision's very own CEO under oath claiming that PC player counts are actually higher than they are on console. Okay, so as if the challenge wasn't hard enough already, you got 2 of them. Good luck with that, and here comes a tweet from Doug Dimmadome Warzone. Definitely not a gooch slicker.
Fuck you, Doug!
This is the happiest I've seen the Call of Duty community since Warzone originally dropped back in 2020. All across social media, I'm seeing praise about the Verdansk update. Crazy that all it took was going back to as close to the original game as we possibly could. The reason I bring this tweet up is because a lot of Call of Duty fanboys have the claim that I only hate and I'm always completely negative 100% of the time, never positive. Well, let me toss you another bone. If you didn't catch my last video, I highly recommend it. When I first played Verdansk with the Rick, I actually enjoyed myself for the first few games, especially when we got some W's on the board. It was actually a pretty enjoyable experience because of the nostalgia factor. However, once that wore off and the honeymoon phase was over almost instantaneously for the 2 of us, we both noted that the game was just getting more boring, game after game after game. The skill-based matchmaking was at an all-time high. There was bugs, there was still server issues, but at the bare minimum, at least we could say that we enjoyed ourselves initially. And that is the entire point that I'm trying to make, is that initially this is going to be the feeling of very many people. They're going to assume that this is the happiest they've seen the Call of Duty community. Of course, because this is so nostalgic for them, they're happy to see this. But just as the trends in the data will show, that happiness factor that everybody in the community currently has, it's going to dwindle and die off little by little over time. And while I don't think we're gonna see any more record lows for the rest of this Call of Duty title, it still needs to be noted that this insane jump in the player base that everybody is celebrating, it's temporary, and it's gonna be even more temporary than a lot of people expected because it's already down 10,000 people. What do you think this number's going to look like in 2 weeks?
Come on, man.
No, it's not gonna reach the record low of like 22,000 or whatever it was initially with Black Ops 6 a couple of weeks ago, but certainly maintaining over 100,000 players on Steam at least probably isn't going to last. Now, I'm not saying that Call of Duty is a complete and utter failure, but It kind of is right now, I'm not gonna lie. Especially considering the expectations and standards that so many people set. Alright, and here's another point that I wanted to make, and this is gonna hurt a lot of people's feelings, but it still needs to be said. In last year's Call of Duty game, MW 2019 Part 3, I recall several instances where a simple update would come out. Maybe it would be like Season 4 Reloaded, right? Something random in the middle of the year where the player count should actually be dropping even more, and yet after one of these simple updates, the player count would actually skyrocket back up to like 120,000 peak players on Steam. And yes, that is still despite everybody playing on console apparently, and people being on PC Game Pass, because this is when PC Game Pass was introduced to Call of Duty. So it's the same circumstances, just a different update that didn't include Verdansk, and the numbers were the same, if not higher than they are right now for the reintroduction of Verdansk. So to everybody that was saying Verdansk was gonna save Call of Duty and that Call of Duty is so back to what? Back to the numbers that we had for a random MW3 update? Is that really the peak for the return of Verdansk? Is that all it can do? Because to me that's not impressive, and again, I was expecting a boost in the player count upwards of like 200,000 to 300,000 on Steam at least. When this dogshit multiplayer experience Black Ops 6 released, the player count shot up to like 312,000 or something crazy like that. And you're telling me every single casual that stopped playing these multiplayers because they missed Verdansk, all of them combined on the launch day of Verdansk could barely maintain a third of that number? Really? And I'm supposed to be impressed? This is supposed to shut me up? Why don't I shut some of these gooch lickers up very quickly with this? I did a comparison chart on Steam between Marvel Rivals and Call of Duty, and as you can see, the green line right there is all of Call of Duty. Remember, that's MW 2019 Part 2 to the present day, including all versions of Warzone and Verdansk, all the zombies, all the campaigns, all the multiplayers, everything accumulated is that green trend. The blue one is Marvel Rivals, and it's still higher than COD even after Verdansk released. So you tell me if this is truly a success for Call of Duty, because from my perspective, as somebody who's actually looking at the numbers and actually using basic data collection methods, the trend that we've been seeing this entire time and the trend that's still continuing right now points to this not being as impressive as you think, even if you consider every single other platform. Call of Duty is most certainly not saved. Maybe for the time being, for like the next week or two, maybe you'll see some pretty nice peaks, but as far as I'm concerned, it's still not enough to save Call of Duty from the complete and utter fall off that it's been experiencing for the last 2 years. Again, I would love to be proven wrong, I just don't think you gooch slickers could probably do it. Maybe if you spent less time on your knees and more time in front of a book in a stats class, maybe you actually could, but unfortunately, you fucking can't. But that's gonna do it for me today, guys. I'm curious to know what you guys think about all this. Do you think these numbers are impressive for the return of Verdansk, and is this enough to save Call of Duty? Let me know down in the comments below, and if you enjoyed today's video, make sure to leave a like, subscribe if you're new, hit the bell notifications to stay up to date with my newest videos, and yeah guys, it's been the boy Fooly. Have yourselves a good one. I'm out of here. Peace.
This ain't in my body.